value chain analysis. So let's look at some of the typical value chains in creative economy. For instance, let's take publishing industry, book industry. Who are engaged in value chain? What are the links in the value chain? First, of course, are authors, those who create books, who write books, those who have this creative input to put on the market, creators. Then, secondly, we would have editors, editors who would check the script, check the book, help the author move from the just text of their creativity into something that is publishable, which is cross-checked, proofread, etc. Then we move to the third link in the value chain. These are publishers, publishing houses. What are they doing? They are, of course, turning this manuscript into actual book, meaning that they are dealing with illustrations, they are dealing with all the small print that we usually as readers we might not even notice it. Then they deal with printing houses to actually produce the book in printed format, in paper format, or they engage IT companies in order to produce electronic versions, e-books of the same edition. But then that's not it. Then we have wholesalers. So wholesalers might be those who are stocking on the book from this publisher and other publishers, let's say for the regional market. Or it can be Amazons.com of this world, those who have large storage, large facilities and logistic chains and operations in order to deliver these books to customers. But then we might have also another player, another link, it's bookstores. Individual bookstores, yes, they indeed still exist, and they're very important for publishing houses and for authors. We do still like to buy paper books as customers, and this market is still growing, no matter how electronic formats are replacing the traditional paper format. And then ultimately we have the sixth value chain link are finally customers, so us, readers who get this book. So we have this 6 links in this value chain for publishing industry. So let's take another example, music industry. In the music industry, we would have first link in the value chain is of course artist, composer, person or persons who create creative inputs, those who write music. But for the music to reach the customer, the second link in the value chain would be producer or agent. It's a company or person that arranges the music, that makes sure that the artist actually puts his music on the market, representative of an artist. And the producer and agent actually makes arrangements with the third link, studio. Studio where the magic is happening, where the music gets actually put into files or into the recording. Then we would have the distributor or broadcaster, the fourth link in the value chain, because the music in the file or in other format, in the video format, it has to be distributed, broadcasted, if it's radio, or online radio, or traditional FM station radios, or it can reach cinemas. Even there are different novelty formats how music can reach audiences, including streaming online, etc. And there are platforms for doing that. They are distributors. And then finally we have the customer, so the fifth link and the ultimate destination in the value chain. Us as listeners or as buyers of music, or us as people who watch and go for concerts to watch the music live. So we have again a value chain in music industry. We can look at various different examples of value chains across creative economy. But according to Salman study, it's a consultancy, they've done a great research on the value chains in 2013. They identified 4 general links in the value chain. The first one is an artist. So someone has to create, it's someone who produces a creative input. Then the second would be the industrialist. Industrialist is an organization or a company or even freelancer the one that takes care of converting creative input that artist produces into a certain format that can later be put to a third general type of the link in the value chain is an operator. Operator is the one that distributes and puts the product that produced by industrialists and created by artists on the market. And then the fourth and the final general link in the value chain is actually the consumer. So the customers, those who consume the cultural products. So this is general way of looking at value chain, and it's important for cultural organizations to understand this concept. Why? Because when we understand where our organization operates, on which markets we operate, what we talked a bit earlier in this lecture, and then when we understand how a value chain in our segment, in our market looks like, we might understand that we actually either spread too thin, so we're trying to get into as many links in the value chain as possible without having enough resources. Or in fact, our value chain is deficient. What do I mean? For instance, just recently we had a training session for Culture and Creativity program, and we discussed the value chain for book industry in Ukraine. And the participants of the group, they identified two gaps in the value chain for book industry in Ukraine. First, and very clear one, is the distributor. So there are not enough bookstores, and our online stores are not yet that known and not reaching too many customers, and therefore our publishing houses face the problems of how to outreach, how to reach their customers with the products, no matter how great these products are, how to reach the customer. So there is a gap in distribution link of the value chain. And another gap is in Ukraine there are pretty non-existent literally agents who represent new up-and-coming authors who might be hiding somewhere with their great creative manuscripts. And so it means that in the Ukrainian market we have market failure. It means that many great authors might not be found, they might not become bestsellers just because there aren't agents who can help them to bring their books, their creations into the market. And so when you look with your team, you sit and you deconstruct the value chain and then discuss what are the market gaps. Maybe you will decide that you need to move and close this market gap. Or maybe you need to change your business model in order to adapt to the value chain deficiencies. So it's quite a helpful exercise for cultural organizations and creative enterprises alike to analyze the value chains on the markets you are operating on in order to adjust your strategy, adjust your business model, and to understand actually how your market is operating right now. And again, I already mentioned Salman survey from 2013. In the same file, there is a great statistic for the book industry and some other segments, industries of creative economy in France in 2012. What they've done, they've deconstructed and put the numbers on the value chains for these segments, these markets for France. And it makes an interesting reading. Let's say book, an average price for a book that was published in France in 2012, the paper one, it was €10.90. Out of that amount, of this price, €10.90, so how it was deconstructed along the value chain, who got what from that price. So the numbers are quite interesting. So out of this price, artists would get 10%, then further 30% would go to the producers. In this sense, in this case, these are the publishing house. And then we have 60% that would go to intermediaries and distributors. In fact, 50% would be the Amazon.com cut, and it would include the commission that the site takes, plus logistics and delivery that Amazon.com arranges. So you see that even though that we might think that value chain, like the price of the book is, let's say, big, yeah? But then the author, the creator, gets only 10%, and the rest goes for all those companies and organizations engaged along the value chain who add their value to what customer gets. Thank you for watching this course. I hope that you enjoyed it and you learned something new and useful for further work. Please know that there are some additional information, cases and materials and useful links that you can check just below this video. Thank you and bye.